now. Okay, also, Nancy's got up the PowerPoint, and remember, you can move all of our faces out of the way over to the right side of your screen just by putting your cursor on the little line. We will then become very small little matchboxes. And Nancy, you could even do it just as speaker view, so Nancy is the only one speaking at the time, if you like. And also, you can stop your videos if you choose, and that will make your screen a little less jumpy. All right, Nancy, it is all about you right now.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us. So happy to see you all. I'm Nancy Long. I am currently not a choir director, but I have been a choir director for many years, mostly at the St. George Cathedral in Pittsburgh. And my husband is the priest at St. Elias in Newcastle. So Father Colin, that's actually quite close to you, right across the border from Youngstown to Pennsylvania. But I live in Pittsburgh. So we're today going to be talking about music theory, the basics. We have named it Western Music Theory 101. Demystifying notes, intervals, and scales. So without further ado, we will dive right in. There we are. Okay, so the staff is a foundation of everything that we do in Western music theory. It has 5 horizontal lines with the 4 spaces in between them. The vertical helps us to know what pitch we're looking at. So the up and down, as you go up or down, your voice will go up and down in pitch. The horizontal scale helps us to determine the time, how long each note will last. Just like the time on the graph of the price of pork, typically time goes across, and in this case, the time also goes across on the staff. The first thing that goes on the staff is a clef, and that helps us to know what pitches go where. The first clef on the top of this picture is what we call a G clef, or a treble clef, or an F clef, or sorry, not an F clef, a G clef or a treble clef. And it's treble because the treble voices, being the sopranos and altos, typically sing from a treble clef. And it's a G clef because, as you can see, it wraps around this line that we will talk about momentarily. That is the line that is called G. And incidentally, it also sort of looks like a G. The bass clef here, below it, shows us where an F is, and that's why it's also called an F clef. So the line that is between the 2 dots is the line that is F. And it also sort of looks like an F. This next picture here that we call a grand staff is typically a treble clef and a bass clef bracketed together, and typically shows us the soprano, alto, and tenor and bass line all happening at the same time. And if you've looked at any of our music, you've seen that many, many times. We do have other clefs that are used. We're not talking about them in any detail. I just wanted to make you aware of them. They are typically called alto clef or a tenor clef. They typically have this symbol as the clef sign, and this middle point of this symbol always points to middle C. So in this case, this is the alto clef where the middle C is indicated here. And up here, it's over here on the tenor clef. And the point of having different clefs is to have as many of the notes as possible to be written right on the staff rather than above it or below it, because it's just easier to read. It's a purely practical reason. And that's why the sopranos and altos read from the treble clef and the tenors and basses read from the bass clef. However, you will frequently also see the tenors written with this clef, but it's sounded an octave lower, and sometimes there's even a little 8 down here to indicate that. But I don't think we have any of those examples today. So note names are determined by, remember we talked about this line, the second line being G, and this line, the second line down actually in this case, being F. Oh no, I have a mistake. This should be an F. That was a bad mistake. Oh well, you can make that change or I'll fix it before we send out a revised version. But basically, the note names start at A and go to G and then repeat again. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Same thing in the bass clef, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, etc. So if you start on that G and read up G, A, B, C, D, and on, or downward F, E, D, and C. Same thing on in the bass clef. This is your F, and we can go down from there to A and beyond, and up from there to C and beyond. And each of the note names also associates itself with the keyboard, and many of you are familiar with where C is on the keyboard. To the left of the pair of 2 black notes. And the same thing, we go from A to G and A to G and A to G and in the reverse. Something to also point out while we're looking at the keyboard is that a whole step, we'll talk about this later, but I wanted to show it to you visually while we were here. A whole step is from one note to, this is a half step, and then to the next note is a whole step. So it's a whole step from C to D. It's a half step from C to D flat or C sharp, or another half step from D flat to D. So going across the top of the keyboard, every one of these steps is a half step. Going across the bottom of the keyboard, some of them are whole steps and some of them are half steps. So in the case of C to D, since there's a note in between, it's 2 half steps, so it's a whole step. From D to E, same thing. But from E to F, it's only a half step. And from B to C, only a half step. So going back to the note names, we have shortcuts to help you learn what the note names are without having to count them all from G or from F. And on the treble clef, the spaces spell F-A-C-E, the word face. So we'll just work that out. From the G down to an F is 1 step, okay? From the G to an A, that would be the A. The line is the B. The space is the C, the line is the D, and then this next space is an E. So every time you look at this treble clef, the spaces will always spell the word face. Whenever you look at the treble clef, the lines always will spell out the sentence, every good boy does fine. And there are other sentences. You can come up with your own. You're welcome to do that. In the bass clef, the spaces are A, C, E, and G, and spell out the sentence, all cows eat grass. And in the bass clef, the lines are G, B, D, F, and A, and I like to use good burritos don't fall apart. We also grew up with good boys do fine always. Again, whatever sentence makes sense to you, you're welcome to use it to help you learn these. Someday, I promise, if you keep working at it, you won't need this at all. You will just know that this space is an E. You'll know that without even thinking twice. But at first, it does help to have some tips and tricks to get us there. So remember we were talking about half steps and whole steps? We have something else that we call accidentals. This is a symbol that raises or lowers the note. In the case of this sharp, which is also a hashtag, we're all familiar with the use of hashtags, and it's also a number sign. It raises the note a half step. This figure that looks almost like a lowercase b is a flat, and that lowers the note a half step. This symbol is called a natural, and it turns off whatever sharp or flat is already existing on that note. So if you have an accidental that's a sharp, it turns it off. If you have a sharp in the key signature, which we'll talk about just briefly, it will turn it off. Same with a flat. And a natural turns off a sharp or a flat in either if it's an accidental or if it's in the key. Something that looks similar to this, I mean, an X is the closest thing that I could find, is a double sharp. So instead of raising the note a half step, it raises the note 2 half steps, as you could probably have figured out from the term double sharp. And by the same token, there is a double flat. And again, this is the best I could do. Typically, you do see the double flat closer together than what you see here. And that lowers the note, not 1, but 2 half steps. And those are our accidentals. Another symbol that we use to help us find our way around in music is called a ledger line. So if we had to just sing notes that existed simply between the lines, it would be very restrictive. It wouldn't allow us to write the kind of music that we like to hear and sing. So we have these little lines that we call ledger lines. And when we want to build a note beyond the staff, we use a ledger line. So in this case, we wanted a note. We don't want this F. We don't want the G that would sit above the staff on the space. We want the next note. So that is an A. So we draw one ledger line and we put the A right on that ledger line. Over here, in the case of this C, we want a C, not an A. We have to include this extra ledger line so that we know that this is a C. So we know that this is F, and then A, and then C. You can't put just a C up here without having the ledger line in there to show you where the A would be. And it works the same on the below the staff, that if we want a ledger line on a space, we have to put the line and then the note goes on the space below it. In this case, it's a B. And then by the same token, we can have something with 3 ledger lines. We could have something with 4 ledger lines. I mean, we don't see that in our music very often, but we might see it in orchestral music where a piccolo is playing very high. A lot of times they put a symbol that says play it up an octave, and then again, you can get more of the notes on the staff, which just makes it easier to read. There is a special ledger line that is in the middle of the 2 staves. So in this particular grand staff on your right, it's middle C, and it's the line that exists exactly halfway between the G clef and the F clef. It can be written like this on the right, or it can be written like this on the left, where you have the C of the treble clef shown as the first ledger line below the staff, and you have the C of the bass clef that's written as the ledger line on the first note above the staff, and these are the same note. It's exactly the same middle C note. Even though it looks like it might be a different note, it's really like this on the right, it is the same note.
Nancy, can I interrupt you just for a moment?
Yes.
We had a question, why do the double sharps and flats get used instead of just using the note up or down?
Yeah, sometimes it's because of the flow from one thing to the next. I would say probably most of the time it's the flow, because if you are going up and then you're going up, yeah, and I'm not a composer, but I would say for the most part, it's in order to get a certain flow, or sometimes, you know, people think differently about something that is sharp versus something that is not. And so it can lead to tonality or intonation that might be more preferable by using an F double sharp than using a G. And it has to do with what key you're in as well.
Right, it has to do with the key, and whether if you're in a sharp key and they're asking you to do something that is a double sharp and they only want you to go up just a half step higher than you were, they don't want you to look at it as a different note that would be the next note up. They want you to keep the continuity of the sound in that original key. So it's
good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Are there other questions at this point? Because the next thing we're going to do is an exercise, and we're going to ask for some volunteers to be victims and just help us identify. We may not do all of these notes. It could take a while. But do we, and I can't see everybody. I'm not sure the best way to do this. Oh, did everybody, or do we only have 5 people showing their pictures now? 6? No, there's some more. How do we want to do this, Marina? Do you have any good thoughts about getting volunteers? Anybody, can you raise your hand, perhaps? There's Steve. Was that you? Were you gesturing that you would give it a try? Take yourself off mute. Why don't you?
Okay.
And tell us number 1. Or tell us the first couple.
Okay, the first
And
G.
don't just say it. Sorry. Logic us through it. Tell us how you know that the note is what it is.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Well, we know that all cows eat grass in the treble. So the second would be
Don't forget,
G.
we're in
It was
double
a G.
clef.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No pressure. Yeah.
F-A-C-E.
F-A.
Yeah,
And
F-A-C-E on the spaces.
are they able to see my cursor? Or my-
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, so I was just doing that for my own practice anyway. So
That's
ACE are the spaces. So F would be the first space, then after F is G. So the second one would be, the first number is G.
Good job.
Good.
And then
Okay.
the second one is, again, FACE, so the third line is C.
Third space.
Right. You want to do one more?
Okay. Just the letter before F is E, so that would be an E for number 3.
Right. And the other way is every good boy does fine. That's our trick for the lines of the treble clef.
Correct.
Somebody else want to do another couple? Some brave soul? Okay, Jamili, go for it.
Okay, the first one is F. Number 4 is F. It's F-A-C-E are the spaces. And
Good.
then number 5 is D, because every good boy does fine. So D here.
Good.
And
Want to do one more?
Oh, I'll do one more. 6 is B, every good boy flat, B flat. So a half step below.
Right. So in this case, this is right. Every good boy, And then because there's a flat in front of it, we say B flat. And Marina has written it in there. Okay, do we have another volunteer?
Who else? Come on, be brave, everybody. Let's see. Okay, Rana, you're up. Be brave, Rana. You can do it. Okay. All right. We won't force you. Let's see. Who
Okay.
else? Who else? How about Jennifer Kiliahua? Number 7.
Number 7 is an F.
Good.
And tell us how you got there.
Well,
Or how somebody, if they don't know as well as you, how to get there.
oh, I suppose every good boy does fine. So that would be the last one, which is the F.
Good job.
That's
And-
right. That's right.
Go ahead and do number 8 and 9.
8 is a middle C. It looks like it's on a staff line right between the treble and the bass clef. So
That's right.
and then 9 is a D. And I have to remember your mnemonics. I already know what the note is, so it's easy for me just to see it and know
Yeah,
what
you
it is.
have to really, it's not part of the trick. It's just really taking the trick from the E. Every good boy does fine. And what comes before E in the alphabet, it would be D. So that's right.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, how about
Anybody?
you? Help us out.
Sorry, which Jeff you're looking for? I guess it's
Jeff
this week.
Wasilko.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, we're picking it up from 12, right?
Number 10, please.
Oh, number 10. So that's A flat, based on FACE or face.
That's
So
right.
The second is the A.
Hmm.
And then
And John?
the same thing again with face, the last white space would be an E.
That's
The easy
right.
ones here.
And number 12.
And number 12, again, same pattern, FACE, so that's a C.
Marvelous. Good job.
Okay, let's move on. Good job, everybody. Thank you. Can we erase those? What happens? Oh, yeah. Can you
Here you go.
erase that, Marie? Oh, yeah. So here we are on the bass note.
All Kelsey
Do we
girls.
have a volunteer? Or will Marina will volunteer you? You'll be voluntold.
I think I
Okay.
could do it.
Okay. Who said that?
Sophia.
Sophia. Yay. Give us the
Sophia.
first couple.
Okay, so FACE. So the first one's F.
Wait. Look what we
Wait.
have here.
Where are we? Oh, shoot. Darn it. Dang it. I need to go back to your first page. What was it? I don't remember.
Okay. So
All
remember our little
cows
saying.
eat grass.
Okay, so A for all.
There you go.
And number 2 would be G for grass.
Are you sure?
You got 3 easy
Wait,
ones.
all cows eat grass.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Sorry. That was a test. I wasn't paying attention.
All cows eat E for
Right.
yeah.
Excellent.
Um,
Nicely done there, Sophia. Give us one
Thanks.
more.
Okay. All cows. So C sharp.
You got it. Good job.
Thanks.
Okay, who's next? So can somebody tell us what's the mnemonic for the lines of the bass clef? What is it?
Come on, it's the famous Tucson
Oh, yeah.
burrito.
It's good burritos. Well, I know it as good boys do fine always. That's how I learned it. But I mean, let's see it. Good burritos don't fall apart. Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. And absolutely, good boys do find always works. Whatever you can use to get you there. So, good boys.
Okay,
What's that
Jamila,
note?
help us out.
Okay, so the first one is B in the bass clef there. Good boys, yeah. And then number 6 is D. And number 7 is F because it's right below G.
Good. Good job. All right, let's see. Hey, Steve, you ready to give us a hand here?
Sure.
Okay, number 8, Steve.
Number 8. Okay, that would be for good boys do fine always, would be the D for number 8.
You got it.
That's right.
What about 9?
Would be an E flat.
Very
Excellent.
good.
And then that would be 10 would be B for boys.
All right. Great job. All right, let's see. Let's see. How about Mike Feligy? Are you around?
Mark.
Oh, Mark, excuse me. Mark. Are you there, Mark? Did you go have dinner? Where are you? Okay, we'll come back to you, Mark. What about Julie? Are you there, Julie Path? Uh-huh. Where is everybody? This is how it works in my classroom. I just want to tell you. They all log in and then they leave. Juan, are you there? Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Juan. Yay, thanks for answering.
Hi.
Give us number
Okay, so
11,
that would be
Juan.
good boys do fine. Good
Yep.
boys.
There you go.
That's D sharp.
Good. Next one.
F
Good.
E.
How about the next one?
Wait a minute. Number
Try
12.
again.
Number 12. Think about your lines.
E.
Good.
What's
Burritos
the
don't fall apart.
Oh, A.
There you go. It would be, you would have been an F if you were in treble clef, right?
I guess.
Okay, you guessed, okay.
That's right.
And now 13, think about the little mnemonic. I wrote it at the
C.
top of the page. Look at the tip of the page, look. Look up here.
Up
Yeah, I
immediately
see.
above it.
Okay. So what is number 13?
C.
This is burritos. Good
Oh,
burritos. Because we're actually on the line.
oh, we're on the
okay,
line.
and
Okay,
not
so
on the
that,
space.
so that's B.
Yes. Do one more.
That's right.
Do one more. Now use the all cows line.
G.
There you go. Nicely done. Good job. Good job. Hey,
Good
Sandra.
job, folks.
Sandra, do a couple for us, will you?
You have to
Sandra?
unmute yourself.
15 would be 16 would be G.
Good.
That was a couple. I don't do any more than a couple. I'm a union person. Okay, 18 is F. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got visual problems, so I missed the sharp.
That's so. What is it? So we just call it F sharp. That's all. You're totally
Yeah.
fine. Good job.
That's
Good
right.
job. Okay, I think that's good. Nancy, should we move on?
Okay. Yep. Let's move on. Okay. Now we're going to talk about note values in terms of time.
What about it?
So we have these two boxes here. On the left, we have the note, and on the right, we have the rest. So a note is where we have sound, and a rest is where we have no sound. On the left, starting on the top, we have what we call a whole note. And can I ask everybody to please mute? We're getting some background noise. The whole note on the top of the left gives us 4 beats. Think of a whole pie, and it has 4 quarters in it. The next line down has 2 half notes, so it's an open note that has a stem, so it's similar to a whole note, but the stem cuts it in half. So it's 2 beats each for each of those half notes. One line down from there, we have quarter notes, and each of those is 1 beat, and 4 of them add up to equal a whole note, and 2 of them add up to equal a half note. And down in the next line, we have eighth notes, and that's where we have added what we call stems, or we also can add a flag. I'll point out a flag to you somewhere when we're looking at music, but that basically cuts the note in half again. So 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter note. 4 eighth notes equals 1 half note, or 8 eighth notes equals 1 whole note. And then we start adding more flags or stems, and we continue taking a half of the value of the previous note. So in this case, we have eighth notes with 1 stem or flag. We have 16th notes with 2 stems. So 4 16th notes equals the same value as 2 eighth notes equals the same value as 1 quarter note. You can add more flags or beams. I have seen 32nd and 64th notes in some classical music. I don't think you'll ever see that in Orthodox music, but who knows? On the right side, we have our rests that are equivalent to the notes on their left. So this is a whole note. It is equivalent to 4 beats of silence. We have a half note, half rest, that is equivalent to 2 beats of silence. And you will see that the whole rest and the half rest look an awful lot alike, and it's sometimes hard to tell them apart. So the trick is to look at the whole note and see that it's hanging down from the line, and it sort of looks like a hole in the ground. Think golf. And that is where you want to get your little ball right into the hole of the golf, where the flag sits. In the half note, it sort of looks like a top hat if you cut off the lines right here and it's standing up. And I'm trying to see what Marina is. Yep, she's making a picture of a little top hat. And so if you think half and hat, it will help you to remember that the half note sits on top of the line and the whole note hangs down below the line.
I have a little saying
Quarter rest.
for my kids that if you are a whole gentleman, you would take off your hat, but if you're a half a gentleman, you leave on your hat. Sorry.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Okay, a quarter rest looks like this and is equivalent to a quarter note, only a rest is silence. Eighth rest looks like that, equivalent to an eighth note, and on down to the 16th, and then not pictured, 32nd and 64th notes and rest. Do we have any questions on that much? One thing to add is that when we put a dot, and we will have some dots in the examples that we'll be looking at in a bit, when you put a dot, it adds half the value of the note that the dot is sitting on. So a half note, which is worth 2 beats, if it's dotted, it's suddenly worth 3 beats. A quarter note that has a dot is not worth 1 beat, it's worth 1.5. And then you have to make up the other half with 1/8 notes or 16th notes. Okay, we're going to talk very briefly about key signatures tonight, and we will talk longer about time signatures. I will just put a quick plug in for our key signature session that Marina will be leading, that I believe is 2 weeks from tonight. So if you would like to learn about key signatures in really good depth, come to that session, or if you aren't able to make it, be sure to try to review the recording once it's done. So the key signature comes after the clef sign. So you can see them here, 2 examples of key signatures. It shows the key signature will either have sharps or it will have flats. It tells you what key it is. And basically, it tells you that every time that you see a C in this piece, whether it's this C up here, or whether it's middle C, or whether it's this C down here in the bass clef, it will always be played as C sharp, not C natural. Same thing with this F sharp. An F in this key will always be played or sung as an F sharp, whether it's this F or this F or this one down here. This means that F's and C's will always be sharped in this key, which happens to be the key of D, in case you were wondering. And you'll learn all about that in the key signature class. Over here, the same thing. Every time there's a B in this key, it will be sung as a B flat, whether it's this B or this B or this B. So that's what the key signature tells us. It helps us to know what the keys are. And we'll talk about scales a little bit later today. So it will give you the foundation for understanding the key signatures in 2 weeks. The time signature is the next thing that we'll show typically on your music. And the top number tells you the number of beats that are in the measure, in this case, 4 beats per measure. And the bottom number tells you what type of note getting 1 beat. In this case, it's the quarter note. And let me just back up here. So the quarter is what is called a 4 on the bottom. So if we're talking about a quarter note, it's this. If there's an 8, it would be an 8th note that would be getting the beat. So moving forward, the time signature, or we also refer to that as the meter. Somebody might say to you, what's the meter of this piece? They mean, what is the time signature? That gives us the time structure of the piece. And as we said, the top number is the beats in the measure. The bottom number is what type of note gets 1 beat. The beat itself is like a pulse. It's really the steady beat. It's not rhythm. Beat is not rhythm. Beat is the steady equal division of time, like the ticking of a clock, like the ticking of a metronome, like the tapping of your toe to music. It can be fast, it can be slow, and it provides the foundation around which the rhythm is built. So once again, just going up to here, this would be a steady beat. When you want to have rhythm, you start mixing in others of the types of note durations to get the various rhythms. And we'll see some of that in some of our examples very shortly. When we talk about music, we always refer to measures or bars. So look at this example at the bottom. The bar line is the vertical line that separates these, what we call measures, which are individual sections of the piece. So in this case, we have a 3/4, so 3 beats per measure, and the beats are quarter notes. So we have in this measure 3 quarter notes that comprise the entire measure. And then we have this, what we call the bar line. And then we have our next measure, which has a half note, which is, remember, 2 beats, and then 2 eighth notes, which add up to 1 beat. So it's 1, 2, 3, and that is our 3 beats of quarter notes in measure 2. Measure 3, and we call this a measure, we also call it a bar. A lot of times people will say, go to the 3rd bar or go to the 3rd measure. In this case, and Marina is writing it down, 1, 2, 3, and. So this 3rd beat is the addition of 2 eighth notes to make up 1 beat. And then here's a situation where we have a dotted half note. So this half note by itself would be 2 beats, and then the dot adds the 3rd beat. The time signature does tend to suggest common stresses. So a 3/4 would typically suggest that the first beat has the stress and the second and third beats are less stressed. So think of a waltz. We would have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sometimes we have to work against that with whatever the words are, but it does, the time signature does tend to suggest common stresses. A common stress in a 4/4 bar would be stress on 1, not on 2, a secondary stress on 3, and not on 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Nancy,
And
we
it's
have a
important to
question.
note, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go
I have
ahead.
a question. Is what do you mean by get the beat? It might have been something that you said just prior to coming in here. I'm not sure.
Get the beat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I said.
Catherine, do you want to expound on that? Turn on your mic.
Unmute.
Just trying. There you go.
I
There you
think
go.
might have answered my question because sometimes I'll hear the director say that certain note gets the beat, but they all kind of look like quarters or halves or wholes. But sometimes the more learned people can see that. I think she's talking about these stresses.
Probably, yeah, probably. I think you're right.
But I
That
also
they
think
would
it
be
might
referring
be,
to.
I think it also might be when we were talking about the time signatures and we're talking about that the lower note, the lower number,
Yeah.
where we say that the quarter note gets the beat. It is the quarter note that we are counting, as opposed to, like, if it was in 3/2 time, for instance, then it would be the half note that gets the beat. But when you see a 4 on the bottom, it is equivalent to a quarter note. Does that make sense? So, like, if you had this right here, for instance, and if I just drew this, that's a quarter note. Don't even look. Okay. And that is equivalent to that. The quarter note is getting the beat. So those are equal. Okay?
So when we count, we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're counting quarter notes and they are getting the beat. As opposed to in this example here, it's still the quarter note that's getting a beat, but in this case there's 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. 3. So and we're going to talk some more about that. We have some more examples about notes that are getting the beat pretty soon, very soon. Does that help, Catherine?
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure. Okay, so we're going to talk through some examples of different time signatures. Here is our page of time signatures that are 4/4. So 4 quarter notes. The quarter note gets the beat. We would count 1, 2, 3, 4 in each of these measures. Now, before we dig in too far, I want to point out that these 2 examples down here have what we call the common time symbol instead of a 4/4. 4/4 is a very common time, and it has been shorthanded into this C, just meaning 4/4. And these 2 examples that I found in our music happen to have a C instead of 4/4. It's exactly the same thing. The quarter note gets the beat, and we're counting 4 of them in each of these measures. So let's just look at the soprano line here a minute. We have 4 quarter notes, plain and simple, quarter, 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 quarter. That's a full bar or a full measure in 4/4. Then we have the half note, that's 2 quarter notes, 2 beats, and then 2 quarter notes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 2 eighth notes that make up 1 beat, and then 1 more quarter note and 1 half note that is 2 beats. The altos have it slightly different, and the basses have something more similar in the first bar anyway to the altos. So the altos start out with half notes, that's 2 beats, and then 2 more beats here, and then another half note, 2 beats, and 2 more beats here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, and this half note is 3 and 4. Following?
Also want to mention, notice the direction of the stems. For the sopranos, their stems are going upward. The stems of the notes are going up so that they know that those are their pitches. The altos, the stems are going downward so that they know that those are their notes. Same thing for the tenors, the stems are up, and the basses, the stems are down. So when they're sharing a staff like that, you have to know which direction the stem is going.
Right. Thanks, Marina. Okay, so on the next line, the first thing we start with is a rest. And this looks like a hat. So it's only half of a gentleman, and it's a half rest, taking up 2 beats of silence. And then we have 2 notes that are quarter notes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And note that here, the stems are going up and down from the same note. That shows us that the altos and the sopranos are both singing the same note in this whole first part of the line. And then we have 4 quarter notes comprising 1 measure. And then we have 2, and technically, let me just talk you through that. This is the soprano's note that is with the stem going up, and this is the alto's note with the stem going down. And they put it this way so that they can then start indicating that the sopranos and the altos don't have the same notes anymore. So it's 2 beats here, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, and the sopranos have 2 quarters and the altos have a half. And then they all come together on a dotted half note. Again, this is a half note plus a half of a half note. So that's 3 beats for powers. And then the next example, it's just more of the same, except in this case, we have a half rest and then a quarter note rest and then a quarter note. And then straight quarter notes, and you are able to follow along. And here's a rest right instead of the first note of this piece, of this measure. So it's 9:01. Do you think we should,
Let's take a little
for
break.
John, or, yeah, that's fine.
Why don't we
We'll
take a
come back.
5-minute break, just stand up and stretch a little bit. And we'll just take 5 minutes, okay? A real 5 minutes. It is 6:01.
Okay.
We'll be back at 6:06, depending on what times you can place your.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Nancy, are you there?
I am here.
Did we want?
Is it 5 minutes?
No.
We need to pick up the pace.
Yeah.
There's a lot left to cover. I need to pick up the pace.
Oh, there's a lot to do. Are we gonna do some exercises on rhythms with clapping and stuff, or no?
Let's not.
Okay.
I think we got to really move it along here.
Okay. It's 6:05 right now, so 1 minute. Chris Howard, can you hear me?
Chris, are you muted?
I'm going to text him. Okay, let's start.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to start with time signatures. There's a lot to cover yet before we wrap up for today, so I'm going to pick up the pace here. Time signature 3/4, 3 beats per measure for a quarter note gets the beat. So in this first example, we have 3 beats in the first note. That half note, dotted half note is 3 beats, and then a half note and a quarter note added together is 3 beats. And then the next measure has 3 quarter notes, which is 3 beats. And I think you are starting to understand, and I would like to just move on to the next example. So here's the time signature of 6/8. I could not find anything in our own music, but here's an example where there are 6 eighth notes in the measure. And it's just important to note that in 6/8, you're really counting 2 beats per measure. It's a big beat. They would call this complex rather than simple. So you can think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's 6/8 is more typically thought of and beats in 2 beats of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2 and So in this case, there's a pickup note that is an eighth note, and then we have a quarter note that's equal to 2 eighth notes. Remember, we are driving for 6 eighth notes in each bar. So there's 1, 2 here. There's the third one, 4, 5 here, and there's the 6th one. And then this is a tied note that has 3. So remember, our quarter note is 2 eighth notes, and then adding the dot adds an extra eighth note. And then this is 2 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And moving on, we're going to move on. We got to move things a little quicker. This example is 6 quarter notes in a measure. So in this case, we have 6 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we have a whole note with a dot. So remember, a whole note has 4 beats, and then adding the dot adds half of the value. So it's 4 plus 2 equals 6, and that's our 6. That's what we're trying to get to. Here's another good example. Here's in the alto line and the bass line. We have half note, half note, half note, 2, 4, 6. So that's our example of our own music that has a 6/4 time signature. I'm moving on, Marina. We're going to pass up on this rhythm exercise. If we have time to come back, we absolutely can. Let's talk a little bit about our terms that we use to indicate speed, and in somewhat of a manner, atmosphere. And we're not going to walk down through all of these, but you can see we have a lot of ways to say how fast we want something to go. Something like allegretto, it means somewhat quick, but it also tends to mean lively. So vivace is lively. It also means fast. So you can sort of see how you can use different terms to achieve different goals. The ritardando is to slow down, and accelerando is to speed up. And this is all Italian. Thanks, Marina.
Like my terrible.
And then we have, yeah, what you need is a pen that can write on a screen that, you know, takes, like that you can touch, a touch screen. And that would, yeah, that would make it a lot easier. I know. That's hard. Okay, so we have these different dynamic symbols, and they can go from very soft to very loud. Typically, we don't use like super, like you don't see typically a forte piano or a sforzando in our music as a rule. We do have all of these. In other music, and even in some of our music, you might see things with 3 Ps or 4 or 5, in which case it becomes pianissimo and fortissimo. So we can get pretty soft and pretty loud in how we talk about music. We also have these hairpins, the crescendo, that means get louder. So you start soft and you get loud, and it's a picture of that really. And the same thing with decrescendo or diminuendo. It's a picture of getting softer, and that helps to know what you're supposed to do with this symbol. We have a few articulation, sorry? Okay, a few articulation marks that we're going to talk about. The staccato, which means short and separated. The tenuto, which means stressed and held its full length. The accent, which means sort of pounded, like boom, boom, boom. So it starts out louder and it ends up softer. And you can see it has a sort of the accent mark looks like a little tiny diminuendo. And then the fermata, also known as the bird's eye, which is a hold, and that's typically held in our choral music as long as the choir director wants you to hold it. Solfege, we're not spending time on tonight, but it is just the use of syllables to help us learn to be a good sight reader and also to teach listening skills. We have movable do, which is where the root or the do moves with the root of the scale, where in the key of G, the G is do. And then we have fixed do, where the C is always do. So no matter what key you're in, C is always do. And we have an example here for you to see. Movable do on the left, where this thing that is in the key of G, and my apologies, I didn't put the sharp in there. There should be an F sharp here, is do, mi, sol, mi, do, re, mi, fa, sol, where in fixed do, because the C is always do, this would be sung sol, ti, re, sol, la, ti, do, re. Fixed do, I think, is hard. It's hard to learn. For those people that get good at fixed do, they become extremely good sight readers, extremely good. But even learning movable do will help you to learn sight reading. And just a spoiler maybe, Marina and I were talking about possibly doing a session in the future, not on the current schedule, but in a future schedule on sight reading. I think that might be a really useful lesson for us to provide for everybody. Okay, intervals. We're going to talk about 4 different groups of intervals. The first is perfect intervals, and they're called perfect in relation to the harmonic series, and if you ever took physics of sound, you might have remembered something about the harmonic series. But each of these notes has the kind of pieces of the other note in their harmonics, and I can't explain it very well, but we'll just call them perfect. And the first perfect interval is a unison, and that's where you just are singing the same note. Do, do, twinkle. A perfect fourth is from do to fa, and it's when we're counting intervals, it's important to know that we are counting the starting note and the ending note and all the lines and spaces in between. So in this case, we have a C, a D, an E, and an F. That's 4 notes, so that's a fourth, and it's from do to fa. So the song, your tip for that is Here Comes the Bride. You probably have all heard that already. Or Amazing Grace. Here comes the bride, amazing grace. Or Oh Come All Ye Faithful for the perfect fourth down. Oh come all ye. That's your perfect fourth. Perfect fifth is from do to sol. And again, from C, D, E, F, and G. That's 5 notes. So it's a fifth. And our up example is twinkle, twinkle. That's a fifth. Or down, the Flintstones theme. If you grew up in the time that I grew up, you know the Flintstones. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. That's your perfect fifth down. And then an octave is 8 notes, counting and including the top note and the bottom note. And Somewhere Over the Rainbow is an example of that, going up. Somewhere, somewhere, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or down, no business like show business. If you leave out the there's no business like, that's your octave down. Then we have the grouping of major intervals, which think of the keyboard and think of the key of C. In this case, I'm showing this to you in the key of C, but you can have intervals, all of these intervals happening in any key. But if you think in the key of C, the major intervals are the other ones that involve the white keys if you're in the key of C. So from C to D, that's a major second, or what we talked about earlier, a whole step. Happy birthday is an example. Happy birth, happy birth. The down is yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. Okay, major third, do to mi. Do, re, mi. 3 notes. Kumbaya, my Lord, or Oh, when the saints. And you can see that some of these other intervals are also being built when you sing beyond that first 2 notes. Kumbaya, and we're getting into the 5th. Okay, major 6th. If any of you grew up when I grew up, you know the song My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. My Bonnie, or NBC. Do they still use that? And bum, bum, bum. That was the NBC jingle for many, many years. That's a 6th. And coming down, oh, I didn't talk about the major 3rd down, Beethoven's 5th Symphony. Da, 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 da. That's a major 3rd. Major 6th down, nobody knows. And then a major 7th, and this might not be as familiar to you, but you probably know it by the sound. Take on me, take on me. Is that ringing any bells? Yes, no? Anyway, some of these intervals have a tendency to lead to another interval. In the case of a major 7, it does have a tendency to lead to the octave. And in that example, it does. Take on me, take me. That's your octave. Moving on. Minor intervals, we're going from the C up to a note that is not a white key. And we start with a half step or minor second. From do to ra, I left my heart, or Jaws. Da 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 da. Oh, Little Town of Bethlehem is your down example. Oh, little town of Bethlehem. A minor third is from C to the E flat, or from do to mi flat. Also, we say may when we're referring to the minor third. So to dream the impossible dream is your up example. To dream the impossible dream. Or what child is this? What child is bum bum bum. Now the minor third is a special interval. It is really one of those intervals that's like appears in a lot of the more folksy scales. And it is the interval that comes out in na 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 na. It's like, it's, when I learned about it when I was in music school many years ago, it was referred to as the interval that children, for some reason, they find that interval, and that's how it becomes such a folk song interval. Anyway, moving on, Frosty the Snowman and Hey Jude are both down intervals of the minor third. Hey Jude, Frosty the Snowman, and a minor sixth, The Entertainer. Ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. Excuse me. Minor 7, There's a Place for Us. There's a place. And that's another interval that definitely leads someplace, and that is down in this case. So, and in the case of this song, there's a, you want that to go here, and that song does. It's all about how the notes in the Western music theory chords travel and resolve. So we have to actually, let me just jump back up here 1 second. The minor third is also called an augmented second. And when we talk about the scales in a few minutes, I added this in because it's the same as a minor third from C to this E flat, but in this case, it's a D sharp, and it's part of the harmonic minor scale. And I wanted you to at least see that here and know that it's a minor third, but also an augmented second for when we get to the scales. Okay. This last interval that we have not talked about is called, it has 3 names. It's called a tritone. It's called an augmented fourth or a diminished fifth. And it's called a tritone because it is 3 whole tones, one stacked on top of another. So it's C to D, D to E, and E to F sharp. That is 3 whole tones. It's called an augmented fourth because it's from C to F. You can see that it looks like a fourth, and it's augmented because it's up a half step by this accidental that's an F sharp. Or it's a diminished fifth when it's written as a C to a G, and the G is flatted. And Maria is the, sorry?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, and the reason that they're written differently depends on what key they're written in, how they would be expressed, whether they are going to be using the flats or they're going to be using the sharps, depends on what key they're coming from. And I know that that sounds kind of confusing, but You'll just have to kind of trust us on this one.
We don't sing tritones very often in our music. I won't say that we don't ever. I'm sure there are some. And then I just put this other last example, a major ninth. I mean, you can have a minor ninth, a major 13th, a minor 13th. I mean, you can have just about everything in intervals, but we've talked about the major ones. Any questions on intervals before we move on to scales?
Nothing in the chat. Not unless
Okay.
anybody wants to
So
raise their hand. Okay, go ahead.
A scale is a predetermined, defined set of whole steps, usually just whole steps and half steps. In the case of one type of scale, there is an augmented second. So typically, a scale starts on a pitch and finishes on the same pitch an octave above it or below it. And for that octave scale, all of the steps add up to 12 half steps. Let's talk about that here. Okay, so this is the formula for a major scale. So we go from, and we're looking at this piano, from C up to C, and we're playing all the white notes. We're not playing any of the black notes in this case in a C major scale. So the formula is a whole step, and a half step, then a whole, half. And here's how that goes. From C to D is a whole step. Because remember we talked about from C to C sharp is a half step. From C sharp to D is a half step. So those two combined is a whole step. So C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. And then E to F doesn't have any black note in between. So it's a half step. And then we go from F to G, whole step. G to A, whole step. A to B, whole step. And B to C is a half step. And that is how we build a major scale no matter what note we start on it. We go a whole step, half, whole, half. So if we were writing a major scale from this C sharp, we would go a whole step to D sharp, a whole step to F, a half step to F sharp, a whole step to G, whole step to A, G sharp, A sharp, D, and then D, C sharp, sorry. So the major scale is always constructed in the same way. Here's another look at it. From C to D is a whole step, and we skip C sharp / D flat. From D to E is a whole step. E to F is a half. F to G, another whole, we skip this. G to A, whole, skip this. A to B, skip that. And B to C is a half. Also depicted on the scale like this. Whole, half, whole, half. That's how we construct a major scale. And we don't have to start on C. I'm just trying to help you be unconfused for your first maybe discussion of how scales are constructed. So then we have minor scales. We have 3 different kinds of minor scales. And we have this as whole, half, whole, half, whole. And so here we are. Whole from C to D is a whole. From D to E flat is a half. E flat to F is a whole. F to G is a whole step. G to A flat is a half step. A flat to B flat is a whole step. And B flat to C is a whole step. Okay, let me see if I can sing this for you. Natural minor. C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B, C. So you heard the difference between that and C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So we have flatted the E flat, the A flat, and the B flat. And that is the natural minor scale. It has the flatted third and the flatted sixth and seventh in the scale. Marina is circling those for us. Thank you. That's the natural minor scale. Then we have the harmonic minor scale. All of the minors have a flatted third. All of the minors are the same that way. It's just the treatment of the sixth and the seventh that starts coming into the different sounds. Okay, so we have a flatted E, the flatted third, and then a flatted sixth, but the natural on the seventh. So this is where it starts sounding something like Byzantine tone 6. When we have that interval between the A flat and the B, which is that augmented second that we talked about. D, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B, C, B, A flat, G, F, E, D, C. That's your harmonic minor scale. And then the melodic minor scale is tries to really confuse you. And this one has the key signature in the front. So that doesn't mean that we don't sing the E flat. We still sing the E flat because that E flat is indicated here. But instead of the A flat and the B flat, on the way up, we sing them natural, but on the way down, we sing them flat. Not to confuse you or anything. And it sounds something like this. D, D, E flat, F, G, A, B, C, B flat, A flat, G, F, E flat, D, C. So, not that you need to know these if you're reading music. It's important to know that you are in a minor key, and then you sing the notes that are written, basically. But to really start understanding music theory, it is good to know the different kinds of the scales, and at least that scales are constructed the same way all the time. So a major scale is always constructed with either way, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Any questions on those scales? Oh, we reached the end.
Nothing on the chat.
Okay, shall we go back?
Yes, I
and
think we should.
touch on, let's go back to rhythm. We'll go back to the rhythm page.
I have a question, Nancy.
Catherine,
Yeah, please.
What does natural mean? And when you say natural minor?
It's just the name of the type of minor. So these are names in Western music theory that it's just given this name. It's natural minor. And so what makes it natural? Let me go back to the key signature for C minor is this right here. It has a B flat and an E flat and an A flat. And I didn't put it on this example here of the natural minor, but you can see it has an E flat and an A flat and a B flat. So it's natural because it is in the natural key for C minor. So you sing all of the notes that are typically supposed to be sung in C minor. So it's natural that way. It's not modified or changed in any way. If you're in the key of C minor, you would have 3 flats, E flat, B flat, and A flat, and you would sing them like that. I think that's why it's called the natural minor, the natural scale.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions? Don't
All right.
be shy.
And let's see. Yeah, you guys, there's no dumb questions in this stuff. It's like learning a new language. You know, there's a billion pieces to it.
Sure.
And my husband, Bill, just said, it's important to remember that even though you may have learned all of this, it is still possible that you will not learn how to sight read, because he's still learning how to sight read. And he's been learned all of this years ago, but still learning how to sight read. It's okay. So let's, Nancy, let's go back to the rhythm and let's just play around with that a little bit.
Okay. So let's do the first line like this. And what I would like to do is I will clap the first measure to you, and then you clap it right back to me in the same rhythm. And then we'll just keep going, and then I'll do the second measure, and you clap it back to me, and then I'll do the third measure, and we'll just go across the whole first line, and then we'll stop.
Nancy,
So before we do that, let's just look at it.
Nancy, when you're
Go ahead.
clapping though, will you say the numbers while you're at it? Because I think it would be helpful.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So let's talk through it for a minute first. This is our time signature, which is 4 quarter notes to the measure. So here we have 4 quarter notes in this measure. That's a full measure. Just even quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have this next measure, there's a quarter note, and then there are 2 eighth notes. We would say 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then we have the next measure that is our dotted half note that equals 3 beats, 1, 2, 3, and then this is your beat 4. And then we have 2 eighth notes that comprise 1 quarter note, 2 more. This is your next quarter note, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and then 1, 2 and 3, 4. Let's actually just talk it. We'll count it through. Everybody count. You don't have to open up your, don't unmute yourself because it will be mayhem. But I will count and you all count with me, and we're going to just say the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready? 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay, how did that go? Can you give me a nod or a, well, I'm not so sure. Marina wrote all those in for us, so that made it a little easy. Let's try clapping, and we'll just all clap the whole thing. I will count, and everybody clap, and try not to look at each other because it might be confusing. But let's give it a try. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay. That looks pretty good. I mean, you know how it is on Zoom. It's all a little bit disjointed, but how did it feel? Did you feel like you were getting thumbs up? I see some thumbs up. Thumbs up. Good, good, good. Okay, we're going to skip the second and third line. They're pretty complex. That's something for you to practice at home maybe, but let's look at the fourth line together. And let's do the same thing we did on the first line. Let's, Marina, if you could write in as we are talking through this. So again, this is still 4/4. Nothing has changed about the time signature. Let's start with the first note, which is a beat and a half. So that's 1, 2, and then the 8th note is the and in measure 18. And then the next dotted quarter note is 3, 4, and then this is and here, this 8th note. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, and would be the rhythm. And then in measure 19, it's 1, and then this half note is 2, 3, 4. Hey, Marina, are you writing on the bottom staff? Oh, there. Oh, look at that. Okay, so the third measure down here, 18, 19, measure 20 is 1, 2, and 3, 4. Next measure is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, and this one is just like the first measure. 1, lost my signal pointer. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and then a simple one, just like the first measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll wait for Marina's typing to catch up. While she's doing that, I'll just go back to the front of this line and just point out, see the 1, 2 that Marina drew on our typed actually. 1, 2, 1, 2, and this is and 3, 4, and. Okay, you follow? Oh, there, it's all there. We're going to count it. We're not going to clap it just yet. Let's all start counting when I get you started. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. How did that go? Do I get a thumbs up? Let's try clapping it. 1, 2, and I'll count. 1,
I have a
2,
question.
ready. Oh, go ahead. Let's have it.
So I thought I heard you say the dot gives half to what comes before, but this has 1 and 2, like 2 beats.
Well, it's the first half of 2, and that's really the only way that we could show it here. So the first note is all of 1 and the first half of 2, and we have to say 2 so that we are accounting for it, but the and is the second half of 2.
Oh, I totally get that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, the light bulb. I love light bulbs. Beautiful. Okay, now we're going to clap it. I will count, you clap. Marina, don't clap or mute yourself, my friend. Okay, 1, 2, ready, now. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice, nice. I can see some of you jamming there on your rhythm. That's great. So, questions? How do you feel? Do you feel like you picked up some things that you didn't know before? that you can use when you're reading music in your choirs? How are we feeling? Anything that you would like to go back to? I'll just go back. I'm going to go all the way up to the top and just start scrolling through. We good on clefs, note names, on the keyboard. Our shortcuts are mnemonics. Good burritos, don't fall apart. Our sharps and flats. I can see how you could be confused about the term natural when we're talking about natural minor, and we have this natural that is not the same at all. This natural negates the sharps or flats. You're probably totally clear on ledger lines. We had our exercise. You guys did a great job. Our bass notes, our values of the notes and rests. Key signatures, another plug for our key signature session that is going to be, I believe, 2 weeks from today. We will dive deeply into key signatures, how to figure out what key signature you are looking at, and we'll have a lot of time for practicing. We spent a lot of time on our time signatures. You understand now what a measure is. Between those two vertical lines, that's a bar. Something else, let me just point out. This would be called the first staff. If we had lots of music down below, we would refer to this one as the first one and the next one as the second staff. You know, if your choir director ever says, go to the third staff or go to the third system, that's another term that we use. This would be the first system. I think we didn't talk about this time signature, 3-2. This is another one of our pieces of music where it's 3 half notes per measure. So in this case, this is a whole note that is 2 half notes equal 1 whole note. So here's 1, 2, 3. And up here, there's 1, 2, and then 2 quarter notes equals 3. Or in the alto line, a dotted half note plus a quarter note equals 3 beats, or equals 2 half notes. And then this would equal the third half note. And then here we have 3 half notes in the alto and the tenor line, and a whole note and a half note in the soprano line. So this is, again, another one of our pieces that has, and here's a half note. Even I have to stop and think, that's a half note, not a whole, half rest, not a whole rest. So if you have to stop and think, it's okay. I've been doing this for a long time, and I have to stop and think.
Nancy, we actually sang this on Sunday at Holy Resurrection, and every time I pull this piece up, I go, count half notes, because it's like you can see their eyes just kind of go, woo, I don't understand. So yeah, it's always a trick to get everybody out of 4/4 and into 3/2, where the half note's getting the beat. And that, Catherine, that goes back to what you were asking before, right? What is getting the beat? In this case, the half note is getting the beat. The 2 is equivalent to the half note.
So if Marina were directing this, she would be directing it in 3. So it would be 1, 2, 3. Praise the Lord from the heavens.
That's right.
Conversely, this one is, could you delete all those annotations now? Thank you, my dear.
Right, there you go.
This one is conducted in 6. So in this case, she would be beating the quarter note, and the quarter note gets the beat. So ye. So the quarter note gets the beat in this one. But if you look at them, 6/4 is kind of equal to 3/2. So how many quarter notes are in one measure? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we go back. How many quarter notes are in one measure? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But it's cut up differently. This one is cut up into 3 half notes, where this one is cut up into 6 quarter notes, even though it's essentially the same 6 pieces of pie. It's just cut into 6 instead of cut into 3. Okay, and moving forward, we have a little bit of time. We talked about the rhythm, we talked about the tempo, the dynamics, the articulation, a little bit about solfege. We talked about a lot of intervals and how you can, and you know what, I will confess, true confessions here. I still, after, 40 some more years of knowing that a perfect fourth is Here Comes the Bride, if I'm looking at a perfect fourth, I still think Here Comes the Bride, and it helps. I mean, and the other thing that I do sometimes, if it's in the middle of music, it's hard to think Here Comes the Bride in the middle of a phrase. I will think da 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 da. I will think those 4 notes in between. The 2 notes that are in between. I'll think da 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 da. It just helps me to get there. Anyway, true confessions. We talked about the scales. And there are other scales than the ones that we have talked about. I mean, there is a whole tone scale that goes from, that only has whole notes in it, from C to D, D to E, E to here, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and then back to C. So you don't have as many notes because you don't have any half steps. There's a pentatonic scale that has 5 notes, and it goes from here, 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 bum, 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 bum. A lot of folk music is written in the pentatonic scale. And that's the end. So let's take a minute about our online resources. Oh, and I think there was one other place I was supposed to add in here. Anyway, musictheory.net. My apologies, Marina. If you think of that other place, we can tell them. Musictheory.net is a free website that you can learn music theory. It's an excellent website. It has just lessons, and then it has exercises, and it's free to use on your computer. If you want it on your phone, you need to buy an app. So that's how they support themselves, by selling apps. The last time I looked, the lessons app cost $2.99. The exercises was $3.99. They only have it for iPhone, and iPad, and iPod Touch. But it's free if you want to use it online. There's also Teoria.com, which is also free, and it's more advanced content. So once you get musictheory.net under your belt, you're feeling pretty confident, you can move on to Teoria. There are also many, many, many apps on the phone and for your tablet, and lots of other resources on the internet for learning music theory. My suggestion would be, don't pay for anything until you try it. So in other words, even musictheory.net, don't take my words for it. Try it out. See if you like it before you drop any money, and this is not like a $2.99 a year, this is $2.99 one time, but there's so many free resources out there. Don't pay for anything unless you have used the basic one and you know that this is really what you want to, you know, plunk down some money on. There's so much free. Why pay when there's free? Go ahead, Marina.
I also put it down at the bottom there, Sight Reading Factory. I think you get your first 10 things free, and you get to create your own little sight reading things. It's really kind of fun to play around with it. But also go to YouTube. I've been doing that with my students, talking about, you know, how to learn solfege and how to learn pretty much anything you put in there. Somebody's already made YouTube about it, especially right now, because all the teachers are teaching online. And so there's a ton of YouTube links for pretty much everything you would want to learn on music theory. And some of them are silly and they're fun, and they've, you know, added all kinds of cartoons and whatever to make kids pay attention. But I'll tell you what, they actually work. So there's some interesting things there. Nancy, could you please put in the PDF into our chat? My computer has completely frozen up behind this Zoom, and I'm not getting anywhere. If you could add it to the chat, that would be fantastic. So
Let me see.
while we're
how to do
finishing
it.
up, while she's doing that, does anybody have anything else that they would like to ask a question about, or is there anything that we can help you with? I know it's kind of late on the East Coast. I'm sorry, soon we'll have less time between us. That will happen pretty soon.
I had a question.
Sure.
So one of the slides, well, a lot of the music has, at the beginning it'll have a note value and then it'll say equals 72 or a number.
Sure.
That number beats per minute?
If you would just think of it first as 60. If you had quarter note as 60, that's the seconds on a clock. 60 seconds all the way around. If you think of it, put everything at 60 and then think of it how it moves up and down from there. And it's a metronome marking. So it usually is, generally it's like quarter note equals 60, quarter note equals 72, a little bit faster. Quarter note equals 64, 50, a little bit slower than the beating of a clock. So just base everything off of 60 and you'll be in good shape. Okay, any other questions? I hope that you guys are checking out all of the cool classes that are coming. We're trying to do one a week between now and December. And we're sort of all over the page. Some is Byzantine, some is Western notation, we're just trying to touch like a little bit of, you know, everybody's interests, that we can be everything for everyone. But remember, if you need us for anything, please don't hesitate to email. If I don't know the answer, I guarantee you I'll find somebody that does. And we'll try to get back with you within 24 hours. If I miss something, please don't be offended. Just email me again. I'm doing 3 other jobs. So I want to thank Nancy for her expertise and her great job. We will get this recording out to you. And Nancy just put in the link to the PDF if you just want to open that up. We'll leave the Zoom on for a few more minutes if you need to grab that. Just open the chat and you can hit the download and it should take you there. And you can save it to your computer. And that is basically, that is the PDF of what we just did. It is every screen that what we just did. So you'll have that. Okay, Nancy, any last closing remarks you'd like to give us?
Just thank you all for coming. It was great having such a great participating group and eager to learn, and so happy to see you all. Thank you.
And God
Have a
bless
great
you
night.
all. Thank you. Take care. Be safe.
God bless you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Nancy, there's something here. Thanks. If you could include the time zone in the schedule. I'll have to make sure that Chris adds that. I think it's in the body of it's in the body of the text, but not in the schedule. We'll have to in the calendar. We'll have to make sure he adds that.
Yeah. Right.
Good. Jamile, how are you? Turn on your mic, honey. Turn on your mic.
Oh,
Still
you're
can't
still
hear you.
muted.
You're still muted.
Click the thing that has mute. Mute my phone. Click, and it has a line through it.
Your
Or click on your
document.
picture.
There we go. We got it.
The document was on my screen and I couldn't get back to this screen
Oh.
to unmute. So, anyway,
Yeah.
are you all doing okay?
We're hanging in there.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going crazy.
Yeah. You're still in the classroom, right?
No, I
You-
retired.
Did you have a good plan?
Yeah, I retired.
Yeah.
No, I mean at church, because we have, we're trying to get the church back open, and so it's, some people this week, some people next week, and
Yeah, I'm doing 6, I'm up to 8 people now, 8, depending on if it's a family, there might be a couple extras, but we aren't gonna talk about that. Yeah, because I'm having them stand in families with plexiglass and
Wow.
masks. So it's fun, and microphones. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
I
But
know.
it's allowing people to sing, and we're loving that. And we're getting. I've got about 25 people who are ready to come in and sing anytime. So I'm just
Wow, just
keeping
rotating.
them in and out, rotating.
That's good. Yeah, that's what we're doing too. So
Good.
Yeah.
How's David? Is he good?
David's doing so well. Thank God. I mean, he's just doing so well. He's
Good.
so happy in Kansas. He
I
loves it.
love it. I love it. Is he going to a church?
Not yet.
Okay, where is he?
He's in Lawrence. So there's a church in Topeka, and there's a church an Antiochian church in Topeka, and there's one in Kansas City, and he's right in between the two.
Uh-huh.
So he said as soon as the COVID thing is over.
Yeah, because
He just won't. I mean, he's really interested in maintaining the campus open, and
good.
he won't do anything that's off.
Good for him. That's how everybody should be treating this. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah.
So,
Well, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Bye.
All right. I think we'll go ahead and shut it down, Nancy. Anything else you want to talk about? I think
Nope.
I don't know if you saw the chat. Thank you, Nancy Marina. It was great refresher course, and I love seeing and learning with folks from around the Archdiocese.
That's
So
very
I
nice.
think we talked about everything else.
Oh, what is an ESON?
Yeah, that's
We
that's
missed
okay.
what is an ESON.
but somebody else answered for her. John Troy answered.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Catherine was the lady that was from my
go
church.
to the Byzantine classes.
Yeah, I know.
Right, go to the Byzantine classes if you want to know all about the ESON. We don't do that in Western music.
Yeah, she had good questions though. She kept us on our toes. Vlad in the chat privately to me said that FYI, I've been asked to teach my movable dough sight singing class online on the OCA website starting in October.
Okay.
So we should go and see what he does.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. So
Yeah,
all
looks
right.
like Vlad's still on the call.
Yeah, I think they turned it on and then went and had dinner, And Regina's
And looks like Regina got on. That's good.
Yeah, she's been on since the
Wasn't sure.
beginning, then drove to Riverside to go sing Vespers. So
Okay, I did see her face at the beginning, and then I haven't seen her.
yeah,
But I could only see a few people
right.
because
All right.
I need to see the screen.
Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna go make
Thank
dinner.
you.
I love you. Thank you for doing this. It
Love
was
you too.
great.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Worked
Bye.
out great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.